Welcome back to Not That Important. We're back because it's time for the most exciting month of the cricketing calendar, if you ask me. It's Pakistan Super League season, which means that as a Pakistani fan, especially after the last year that we've had, it's a win-win scenario.
No matter what happens, it's a good thing, right? Like you're never really, no matter who wins, you're never really too pissed. Like in fact, you just enjoy everybody's success. So it's like a very joyful time as a Pakistani cricket fan. One thing you were alluding to off air was how disappointing the foreign players draft was, and how a lot of people have just been disappointed with that. Do you have any thoughts or anything you want to
Yeah, honestly, like
kind of say
when
about
I
that?
look at the list that comes out every year, I'm also like that. That I think it's quite disappointing. We don't get like the top end of international cricketers, but yeah, the more you think about it, like it's inevitable to be honest. Like both leagues चल रही हैं आजकल. Like at any given time, there's around like 3 or 4 leagues happening right now. You look at it, Bangladesh Premier League just wrapped up, Big Bash just wrapped up, IL T20 अब शुरू हो गई है, Pakistan Super League शुरू हो रही है, फिर obviously you have the IPL coming up. So there's so much cricket going on all over the world. An international series, which are like the England India series, you're not going to get like all players available at every time. And then we don't have the fortune to have like an international window for us as well, right? So uski wajah se like you sort of have to live with what you get. The other thing, yeah, is I think when Ramiz Raja as chairman, he spoke a little bit about this was the auction versus the draft system. So the draft system I think works really well in the PSL, but if you compare it with like the IPL where there's like a lot more money on the table, with an auction you can actually attract like superstar players by being able to offer them a bigger salary. I think the draft system works well for the PSL. I don't think we should go around chasing other systems. Like we can't compete with that sort of money. So I think abhi ke liye filhal yahi sahi chal raha hai, and I don't think there's any issues with it. And more importantly, yeah, let's like be honest. PSL has been built on the back of local talent from day one. That's who we want to see. Like we joke about this often when there's like Islamabad United opening with four Goras at the top of their order. Like yeah, we don't want we're not here to see that, right? We want to see Shadab and Azam Khan come out and bat and the rest of the young local players. So
Yeah, facts. Just echo what you're saying. I would never want to go into. Of course, I would love a window, and I would love all the players to come here. But I wouldn't want to auction. I feel like there's a certain purity about our league, which it's been built off of. Um, Purity is not something you can ironically often use when associating anything with Pakistan. But I don't know. The PSL seems like it's one of the more wholesome things going on in our cricket. Like you see so many young players you get to go for, and you see the franchises inevitably giving a lot of young guys a chance too. And I like that as what it is. And I don't compare it too much because I take it for what it is, and I think it is quality cricket, and it's given us a lot of young players as well. So I enjoy it for what it is, and I like seeing our players have that exposure on some type of an international scene. And I think it gives a good indication for what a lot of young guys are about. And for me, PSL has always just been about. I always go for the young guys. I just want to see who could step into the Pakistan colors, and I want to see guys who are on the verge of it, young guys, get a chance to do so. And then it's also a league for people to like stake claims and make their comebacks and have redemptions of sorts. So I like the PSL for that, and yeah, obviously comparison can be like the killer of joy. So I don't think there's any need to compare anything. We've gotten a lot of good stuff out of it, and I think we should just enjoy it for what it is. Honestly,
and it's like it's bro, it's really fun. Like it's a good time, and then we look at our
it's so fun, man. There's no stress. You're just having a good time, no matter
और
what's going
national team को
on.
भी देखो bro, like all these guys are the PSL generation, and we want the next generation to also be
Yeah.
like that, and we'll see those guys coming through in this season and the seasons to come. um, एक और बात जो इस दफ़ा काफ़ी इंटरेस्टिंग थी जो पहले हमने इतनी ज़्यादा लाइक PSL में देखी नहीं है वो ऑफ सीजन ट्रेड विंडो. There's a lot of talk this year, a lot of
It's
hype on
getting
social
cool.
media, and I think everything started by the fact that everyone was like, twerking for Naseem Shah essentially. Like every single franchise wanted him. They
Yeah.
knew he wanted to leave Quetta, and then that sort of led to like a bit of a roulette of trades over here, which like we've seen a lot of people moving around, and that's interesting because I feel like every team, to some extent, Again, we'll get into the specific teams, but I feel like most teams are in a bit of a rebuilding phase, either with their identities or with the
Yeah.
players that have come and gone in the off season. So yeah, it's a interesting season, a little bit hard to predict maybe, but it'll be good to see how it goes.
Just before we go on, Naseem was obviously like, it was like the LeBron
Yeah.
decision of like the PSL world, right? Where did you want to see him go, man? I wanted to see him go to the Zalmi
Hmm.
personally, and I've been saying this since last year. Where did you want to see him go?
At that time, I probably wasn't thinking this, but so I guess back up for a second in terms of my PSL fandom. We've always been like, I mean, hum Karachi ke hain. We want to support Karachi, but just the what that team has embodied hasn't
I
really
don't.
been a team I wanted to
I don't
support.
even
So I
want to
haven't really
support them.
supported them. I've been neutral. I'm a huge Shadab Khan fan, so because of that, I've liked Islamabad. So I actually like to see him go there. But with this rebuilding phase of Karachi, it would have been maybe nice to have him as like the spearhead of that 11 if they're moving past their toxic phase. So that would have been interesting. And would have
Yeah,
I'm just
my
looking for
feeling was
reasons to
that he would
support
be with the
Karachi, bro,
toxic guys.
because I haven't had any.
I'm done, bro. Like, I'll explain our relationship with Karachi, mine and Shan's at least. Yes, when they're in the playoffs, if they're in the finals, we've gone for them because Babar's been there. We're from Karachi. But even when they won, they're probably still the team that I like the least out of all six. Even when they won, they've always been the least likable team. Their jerseys have usually been amongst the worst. They've had like a toxic core of players, which even got like worse once Babar Azam left. And then after everything that happened with Babar, I actually ended up just completely despising them.
I'll
And that's the reason I didn't want, they ruined so many careers. That's why I didn't want Naseem Shah to go there. But now with like Shan Masood coming in, like you
exactly.
said, it's a nice time for a
That's the
rebrand. Shan
context,
Masood's a
right? With
good guy,
Heather Azhar
kind of.
going across from Multan and Shan
Yeah,
joining, but I
yeah.
think
And Shan Masood's the guy who actually built Multan's brand too, if you
yeah,
think
one
about
hundred
it,
percent.
right? Like he's the first guy who went there.
And
And
I was in the same
so I
frame of
like
mind
Shan.
as you. I was actually really happy for Babar when he left Karachi. Like I was actually that was a good move for him to get out of that environment. And similarly, last couple of years, like I have not even supported that team. Like there's just been a shit show.
We could list off. I don't know how much time we have, but we could list off everybody whose career has gotten better since they've left Karachi.
Let's not get into
We
that
could
because
get
we could
into
be
that.
here all day. But
And then another, just one more point on Karachi I want to make. I think if you look at all of the PSL franchises, even the newer one, which is
national team
Multan,
की बात करोगे?
I national team की बात करूंगा. I think quite obviously Karachi has produced the least amount of young talent
Agreed,
for Pakistan. I
hundred
don't think
percent.
it's close. The closest thing to them producing something for Pakistan was like Usman Shinwari, right? Arshad Iqbal, you count that? I don't know. I don't. He played a game for Pakistan. Qasim Akram played. They barely played him. Heather Ali, I wanted him to get off Peshawar, but then he ended up going to Karachi, so I didn't. I wasn't really happy about that either. But if you think about every team, you could think of like that marquee player they've had that they've produced for Pakistan. Karachi,
It
you can't think
hasn't
of
been an
anybody at all.
environment that has allowed young players to succeed. Not only that, it's not given young players a chance. Like that Qasim Akram last year, he barely played, or like he was almost like not given the opportunity to express
Dude,
himself and things like that.
yeah,
So I think that's what I've found most frustrating about that franchise, and I haven't really wanted them to do well because of that. But at the end of the day, yeah, Karachi, Pakistan ka sabse bada shehar hai. Like the market and the passion for cricket is as much as anywhere else, and so you want that franchise to sort of tap into that, and hopefully this is like a chance for them to rise to that occasion finally. हालांकि ownership वही है, but
Karachi's
maybe
real
they're like
team.
recognizing what they did in the past and learning from it.
Yeah, Karachi's real team has always fucking been Quetta, bro. Anyways,
Yeah.
so it's fine. That's where all the Umar associate boys play. Anyways, we can that's our Karachi rant. We can get into the team. So traditionally, like since me and Hux have known each other, we've always just looked at the PSL squads and like made what like our own iterations of what we think that like an 11 should be for a team. And we're never spot on, obviously, such as the PSL. You'll get like a surprise player from somewhere, teams playing random combinations, but it's something we've always enjoyed doing. So we've done that this time around as well. And then I think what we found is that half the teams almost selected themselves, more or less, and there were two or three teams that were an absolute headache to pick. And for those who obviously don't know too much about the PSL combination for 11s, you could have up to four overseas players, and you have to have one emerging player playing. So
That's my favorite rule,
emerging,
by the way. Like it's been there from day one in the Pakistan Super League, and I
that's
think
my
that's
favorite
been
rule.
the
Yeah,
sort of the, tying it back to everything we spoke about at the start about Pakistan Super League being a homegrown league for developing Pakistan talent. I think that rule is something that I haven't seen any other league adopt. So it's like really good to see that we
yeah,
were the first ones to bring that innovation, and it's actually like worked for us because
absolutely.
every year at least someone from
Yeah,
the emerging category either ends up being one of the top performers or makes his way into the Pakistan team.
yeah. And that's what you'll often see. It's a trend in the PSL. The team that has like the best emerging player
Yeah.
often gets pretty far in the tournament. And with the PSL, a guy can be emerging for 2 years, right? So think about a guy like Zaman Khan. Lahore have won the last 2 years. He's been their emerging player both times. They're obviously not going to have that advantage this year, but it was like a cheat code when they did have him as an emerging player,
Mm-hmm.
right?
100%. Yeah.
Or Esanullah last year, for example. Um,
Yeah.
all right, so who do you want to go over first?
Yeah, let's
What
start
team you want to go
with
over?
Islamabad United. The first winners of the Pakistan Super League in 2016, and then they won again in 2018. They've been known for like their data-driven approach, branded Dimagh Se. And in more recent years,
They've been bottling it since, by the
exactly.
way.
So I was coming to that. So in more recent years, like they've consistently been like one of the best sides in the group phase, but eliminators or playoffs may jaake, like they've been falling short. Like they're known for like a very explosive batting, but their bowling has been a little bit mediocre, and that's eventually what's been letting them down in these big games. Because every year when we started looking at the squads, like I think Islamabad United always ends up being one of the top two teams, and based on that, I think they should perhaps have had more than the two titles they have won, and so they'll feel like they're due this year. If I look at like their squad as a whole, I think they seem to have recognized some of those challenges that they've had in recent years by revamping their bowling lineup. Obviously, like trying to rectify some of those mistakes through aggressive trades, prioritizing and culminating in like Naseem Shah joining the side. But to do that, they've also had to let go of a few talented players who were in the Pakistan team, such as Wasim Jr., Abrar Ahmed. Like, and if you look at their team as a whole, their draft, like their clear plan and identity
Fourth
always
victory.
comes through. Like the identity has always been like deep batting lineup, gung ho approach. They always favor chasing, and I think that's what always been the approach. Like with their manager Rehanul Haq, and Shadab Khan is a player who really buys into to that data approach as a captain. And they've also looped in Mike Hesson from New Zealand, who's a huge coup I think as a
Awesome coach.
coach for them. So that's where they're sitting right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's so. I mean, I'll get into what I think their strengths and weaknesses are, and you can chime in as well. I think their biggest strength is just the balance, like the amount of
Yeah.
options they have with bat and ball. No matter who they play, they're almost like Manchester City-esque in terms of their bench strength, like who they can bring on, without it really making a difference. They can play any way they want to. They can play with an extra fast bowler. They can play with an extra spin bowling all rounder. They can play another batter if they want. They're not going to run out of bowling options, which I think is like the key for them.
And actually,
I
just to
think
sort of
it,
piggyback on that point, that's probably gotten even stronger this year because they've managed to somehow pull off like the ultimate trade, Imad Wasim for Hassan
they
Ali,
got Imad Wasim
and he
for
perfectly fits into their style of play, right? Like he's continuously, especially last year in a poor Karachi side, he stood out as one of their premier all rounders. He's had good impact consistently. CPL maybe he's a local boy. From Islamabad, so I think having him and Shadab in the same team really gives you like incredible dynamism, flexibility, everything you want.
it does, and you add Rana to that as well. But here's the here and Qasim Akram, the emerging all rounder for Pakistan, right?
Yeah.
Guy who's already at such a young age, kind of not really, but he's technically captain Pakistan already as well. At the Asian Games, but see, here's the thing, bro. Bench strength, ability to target matchups, baseball style,
Mm.
straight up, like bring people on the exact person you need at a given time, strength. But here are the weaknesses that I find. You talked about bowling, and I admit they haven't always had
Mm.
those number bowlers. I think it's the batting that's actually let them down in the last couple
Mm.
of years. if you look at the knockout
Yeah,
matches they've lost, it's been because they have an inability of someone putting their hand
in
up
those big
and
games.
finishing a
Yep, I
game
agree.
in those moments. I think this is a debate you and I have off camera a lot. I think we've gone so far into like modern cricket and data driven cricket and impact, intent, all of these cliche words, that we kind of undervalue the impact that an actual anchor can have. If you put Babar Azam on these teams or Rizwan the last
They
couple of
probably
years,
win.
they probably make the
Yeah.
finals. They probably win it each time, right? And I think that's the thing they're lacking. They don't have somebody who actually puts their hand up in that situation. And I think sometimes, like, I don't have any one example of this, to be honest. I might be being a bit unfair. I think Shadab is overly reliant on data. I don't think he thinks the game through on the fly always. As I think he has a sharp cricketing mind, but I think there's an overemphasis on data. And cricket is not played on a spreadsheet at the end of the day. Like, it has to be a balance of two things, which I think Multan has probably done the best job of over the years. So I think if Islamabad can, I mean, it's tough because they do have all of the things they need in terms of matchups, and they can do what data says is the right thing. But sometimes I feel like they've over identified with that, and when you don't win, it becomes a little bit of like a money ball, or like a for people who watch basketball, like a Daryl Morey ball type of thing. I guess you've got to win that way, which they can do. But for whatever reason, they've kind of fumbled the bag in the last 2 or 3 years,
I
I'd say.
have, so I don't disagree with everything that you've said. I think the batting point was actually really valid. I think not having someone to finish those chases off, because they haven't had like big chases. I think against Peshawar they were chasing like 170 last season or something, and they bottled that when the game was in the bag for them, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, essentially having someone.
And then the year before too, you remember when Junior wouldn't take
Yeah,
the singles in the
was
last
that
over
last
the year
year?
before that?
That was
I
last
think
year, no?
that was
Okay,
2 years
sorry.
ago. Last year, Amir Jamal and Irshad
Yeah,
came and
that's true.
destroyed them. And then the year before, they Irshad destroyed them, but they got over the
Yeah,
line. But then the next game,
I
they threw it away against Lahore, right, in the second
so exactly. So
eliminator.
that part I agree with you. The part I don't agree with you is the fact that you said that Shadab is a little over reliant on the data approach. That might be true, but I think it's also because their options with the ball. Yes, they have a lot of options, but in terms of the diversity of their attack, it probably hasn't been there to the level that maybe they have now. They never had an off spinner
That's fair.
in their lineup. Now they have Salman Ali Aga and Qasim Akram. I'm assuming one of them will
मुबशर
play.
मुबशर तो था
Yeah,
उनके पास ना. मुबशर
yeah,
नहीं
I
था
know.
उनके पास.
But वो left arm spinner था ना.
I think he's an offie, bro.
I
I'm not
I think
sure.
ऑफ स्पिनर की
But
कमी
yeah,
थी, I
उसको
think उनकी टीम में, in my opinion.
that's
And
why
then
I
they've
think उसको
upgraded
कम
that
use किया.
Mubashir guy as well with Imad Wasim, right? So I think that at least like being able to
Yeah,
trust players at those key moments, I think that's something that they didn't really have. And then like an express like fast bowler, again, we don't know if Naseem Shah is going to be
yeah.
fit, but
True,
actually
true, true.
having those options, I think that gives a captain a lot more um,
Yeah.
to work
They've
with.
never quite had a bowler in recent years of that pedigree who's just like a stud in all three phases,
Yeah,
right? Like with that like tearaway
yep.
type pace, and now who knows, they might have three of
Exactly,
those
and that's a
guys now.
storyline we haven't even
Um,
mentioned. Like the
yeah,
Shah
yeah.
brothers are all
The Shah
in.
brothers.
Oh, before I go back, are all in Islamabad here.
You- Should we get to the 11s then, Hux?
Yeah, we can get right into it. So what are you thinking?
I've got I've got Alex Hales and Colin Monroe as my two
Yep, agreed,
openers.
100%.
I've got Cox at number
Mera
three.
bhi wahi tha.
Okay, number four. I'll let you say it. Your favorite.
I was gonna say, so I've basically got Azam slash Shadab at like 4 or 5, depending on, because I think it's more based on entry
Yeah,
points, right? Like if you're losing wicket early, you get
yeah,
Shadab in, but if you're like past the 10th over, you're getting Azam Khan in, because like
and it's spin
Shadab is a
on.
good spin hitter and a good
Yeah,
pace hitter, but I think Azam is better than him in both those areas. So
yeah.
again, it would be Shadab and then Azam.
And to counter my own point, that's something they do so well, Islamabad. Like, I was criticizing for the overly data-driven approach, but that is something they're
Yeah,
amazing at. Is entry points of batters, right? When to get certain guys
exactly.
in.
And then, like, you spoke about not having that sort of player in the, not necessarily in the middle order, but in the team as a whole to be able to help them like see through those difficult chases. I think having Imad Wasim either batting at 6 or 7 is that guy who will see
Yeah,
them through like in those situations because he's done that a lot for Karachi.
sure.
So I think again Shadab Azam at 4 and 5, and then I'd have probably one of Salman Agha or Qasim Akram playing, followed by Ahmad and Fahim. What are
Okay.
you thinking?
Yeah, I've gone for Qasim, Imad, and Fahim.
Okay.
Qasim just because I want him to
Okay.
play.
Yeah.
I have a lot of regard for him, and I think Babar's last year in Karachi, he was the one bright spot for them, and then Karachi barely played him
Mhm.
last year. So I just want to see him get a go. He's clearly somebody who's been identified as like an emerging talent because he's
Mhm.
captained it at first class level, national level, Asian game, Pakistan level. So he's a guy I want to see play for
Mhm.
sure. Then after, obviously, I have Maddie, and then Fahim
Yeah.
Ashraf.
And then I have
Uh,
just to round it off, I have Shahab Khan, who actually like I'm very excited to see because he's an all-rounder
ah,
who
nice.
has played really well in the domestic T20, national T20. He's one of the highest wicket takers, an all-rounder, and I think with Islamabad's style of like batting essentially really really deep, he fits in really well with that. So I think, given his form, I think he's someone who would be in the starting 11. And then obviously
I like
the
that
other
pick.
key part that I
Yeah.
wanted to talk about was the fact that Naseem's fitness is obviously an issue. I don't know if he's going to be there to begin with in the team. And again, I don't want to take any chances with him, which is good in the sense that they have a lot of foreign options, like with a little bit of experience. So they have Timal Mills, they have Matthew Ford, Obed McCoy. So they have options there. And I think one of them is going to come in probably in that position. I'd probably
And they've got two clones of him
yeah,
too.
exactly. And then I think Hone, so I think Matthew Ford or Timal Mills you take for 8 down, and then you have Hone and Shah rounding off the 11 for me. So I've not kept Naseem Shah in my.
Is this your starting 11 that starts the thing, or were you talking more like if it's a best
I'm
11?
talking about
Obviously,
like what I think will
Naseem Shah
start
comes
the
in for.
tournament. Yeah.
Okay, tell me what you think is gonna happen if you just picking the best.
Then
Then
I think
who
Naseem
is
comes
Naseem
in
coming
for
in for?
probably Shahab Khan or Fahim Ashraf, depending on how
Okay,
performances are going. And then, yeah, you
okay.
can rotate between Hunain and Obed. I'd like to see a match where all three of them also play. It would be nice.
Yes,
But,
yes, yes, yes. Yeah, I agree. I'll probably have time all just because we talk about Islamabad with the
yeah,
matchups. I can't see them not playing a lefty if
yeah.
they have him, just how data driven they are. And then Naseem and then Obed has excited all of us. Shout out to the under 19
Yeah.
guys, man. Like, played your hearts out. Nothing but respect for them. Everybody's really hot on Obed right now, but I'll give some love to the middle brother. I think he's been waiting his time a little bit longer. So, and he's played pretty good in domestic. Like you said, Islamabad usually wins enough games and they experiment. Bro, fucking throw all three of them
Yeah.
in at the
And
same
then
time. Like,
speaking,
they're good and it's an amazing marketing
exactly.
thing too. I want to
And
see it.
speaking of like rotation and the fact that Islamabad likes to change things around, they have the OG Roman Reis there. He's always reliable. You can
Yes.
throw him in. They have Heather Ali in their squad. They've picked him up. So again, someone like at
Let's talk about that for a
mhm,
second. Yeah. I'm glad, bro, because he needed a change of setting. And then he ended up moving to Karachi, which is like obviously, as we've already said, it's never the right thing for most people. And now I'm happy. I don't think he's gonna start, but playing like the best Heather Ali as a T20 batter has ever looked is playing for Northern
mhm,
Punjab in the national T20. And this is a very similar
yeah.
setup with a lot of the same guys: Imad Hussein,
Similar level
Shadab
of
Khan. These
freedom
types of
given to
guys are all
players to
there.
express themselves.
Similar level of
There's not going to
freedom,
be anyone being like, "Oh,
exactly.
technique iska kharab hai." Yeah, if he like gets out playing a
Nay,
shot, they're not
nay.
going to be like, "Oh, like he's not reliable."
Yeah,
Or
and it gives you have flexibility. If you want to rest Naseem, you can bring a foreign fast bowler in, rest the number three Cox, and let Heather Ali have a go, right? Like, why
yeah.
not? At the end of the
Acha,
day, you still want to see young talent develop. So I'm happy to
so
see
we've
that
spoken
that
about
he's
like what
there. And
our team is. What do you think like strengths and weaknesses? I think a strength for Islamabad is always like their top order with like Hales, Monroe. They always have these foreign guys because like those are generally the better top order players, and that's a you know league sort of cricket can help you
yeah,
do that because you have four foreign slots and you can base them on like whatever you think you have weaknesses on. So I think Hales has been one of the probably the best players in PSL history, opening the batting. So he's there. Where do you think this team might like fall short, or like do you think like they have what it takes to win the tournament?
they're no, they always have what it takes on paper. If you think about it, the top order, like you said, is almost second to none. There's maybe one or two that could compete. Then you've got like T20, league wise on averages and all that. Two of the better spin hitters in the world in Shadab and Azam coming back to back, right? So you have like, and then you have all rounders down the order. Bowling, you have almost everything. Maybe you don't have like that second marquee fast bowler, but with them it never really matters because Rana always kind of bowls above his punches above his weight in the PSL. Naseem is a guy who can lead. They've got a guy like Mills. They've got the shot. I mean, they've got a lot of stuff and the all
I was
rounders.
looking at
I
their
just
bowling. If like Naseem is not fit, that could be a concern.
that
And
could be a
again, we
concern.
say he's fit, but he's not going to come back like 100%, like back to his best, right? So it could be that he plays, he's fit, but
Yeah,
like it takes a while for him to, recover to that level. And so, like, do they have what?
yeah,
But I look at
yeah.
their options, and they have options. So if things aren't working, they can change things around. Like for example, Qasim Akram, if you have him starting, Salman Al Yaga can come in if that's not working out, and vice versa. Same with
Yep,
like the top order. They have like someone like Haider Ali sitting around. Shamal Hussain is the under 19 batsman. If you want to give him a game,
yep, yep. Mohammad Wasim's a good
exactly.
player from
Exactly. So they have
UAE.
options. I feel like if their plan A isn't working this time, they have players who can slot in within that. And I think
Yeah,
that's really what will be the key for Islamabad. It's like if plan A doesn't work, or if you have like one of those games where like Chase phas gayi, like what are you going to do in that situation? And that doesn't necessarily mean like you don't continue to hit out, but at least like have a bit of a game plan for how you're going to do that.
yeah.
I think like I was listening to Rehan Al Haq, and one thing he said was in those games they actually felt that they weren't aggressive enough almost because they felt like they could have killed the chase a little bit earlier. So that's something that I think they're going to double down on their approach.
Yeah, maybe, but they needed 40 of 30, and Amir Jamal and Salman Irshad became Waqar and
Yeah.
Wasim. So it's like, I don't know. I don't know. I like the aggression and everything, but I still think like, I still think cricket is cricket and you need smarts to get you over the line at the end. And Shadab is kind of taking that role on, but he also likes to go up the order and
Yeah.
express himself. So I'm just curious to see who's going to take that role. And I think, like you said, Imad Wasim is a great guy to have like in that role. I would love to see Azam Khan take a little bit more responsibility and finish some of the games that he hasn't been able to finish in the past. I think that would be good for them. But yeah, I know that they're if Naseem doesn't hit his stride or God forbid he gets injured, then it's a different story. But otherwise, they're a very solid team. I think the challenge is just not peaking too soon, like they have in probably the last few
Yeah.
editions.
And I think with Ahmad's team, it gives them a little bit more security with the ball if the fast bowler aren't like maybe executing that
Yes.
well. The concern for me will be like the death bowling because I think Tamal Mills could be like पढ़ती रहती है काफ़ी, and then the younger guys Hunain and Ubaid, like how will they fare in those sort of situation. तो वो देखना पड़ेगा
I
अभी.
was actually gonna say the opposite, like yeah, like a pressure match for sure. Death metal, then it's hard for them. But I think maybe to start off, a guy like Obad or even Hunain, new ball might be a little bit of pressure in the circle overs to start off the tournament. So it's kind of good to have a guy like Imad who
Yeah,
could come in and bowl most of
100%.
his quota up there, right? Take some pressure off the young guys.
Agreed.
Let's go to Lahore. Just because this was, I think after Islamabad, the easiest team for me to make.
Okay, you start. Um,
So for Lahore, I'll say that aside from
अच्छा.
Akib Javed being a little bit of a
हाँ.
clown and just wanting all of his players playing in the Pakistan team, Lahore is probably my favorite franchise just because of I think they've really embodied the true spirit of the PSL, giving young guys a chance and bringing guys out of nowhere. Obviously, laughing stock of the PSL for the first 4 years, making the finals in the fifth year with a really young and emerging bowling attack, missing the playoffs the next year, and then getting Zaman Khan as like the final piece to that bowling puzzle, and getting guys like Abdullah Shafiq to bat with Fakhr Zaman. Those two guys probably earmarked like the coming of the new generation for them. Shaheen Shah Afridi, an inspired choice of captain. Like they've been, they've been up there for the last couple of years. They've won playing an amazing brand of cricket in a world where everybody is like bat to number nine and hit sixes throughout. They're like, no, fuck you. We're gonna pick the best 4 or 5 bowlers on show, and you guys are not hitting us. And we're gonna trust our guys, our top order, and like a band of like useful all rounder slash utility players to get us to targets. play with energy, and then you're not hitting our bowling. So I've loved that because I think when a team has a good bowling attack, it's the best viewing in cricket. And I think Lahore, you can probably say in the last 2 or 3 years, not just in the PSL but in all franchise cricket, has had the best bowling attack. Very few other teams can compete. I'm talking about
Bro,
worldwide here.
Haris
When you
Rauf,
have a guy
Shahid
like,
Afridi,
yeah,
Zaman Khan, Rashid Khan, and then David
Rashid
Visa
Khan,
continuing to like somehow defy age
yeah,
and deliver. So,
somehow man walks in like the Undertaker with his helmet on too when he comes to bat. So that's the thing with Lahore. A very spirited
and
team.
they,
You'll see in their wins, it's been random moments of brilliance that have got them over the line. So they have a lot of that like jazba that they
yeah,
play with. And again, aside from their coach being a bit of a clown, you have to give him credit for probably being the best player development coach in the
yep,
country.
they're
You'd
known
have
for
to
that
say
program,
he
right?
is
And they aren't
totally,
afraid to throw
yeah,
players in the deep end when it comes to push comes to shove. And I think that's like when you look at their team initially, you always go like, okay, like can these guys actually deliver? But those when Lahore does its best is when they actually like trust those PDP guys, and then they actually like rise to the occasion and deliver like the likes of Zaman Khan have done before. Looking,
yeah. Even a guy like Sohail Akhtar, who got a lot of flack, like he led them to a finals and did all right. Like they do empower all of their players who play for them, and they give them a long rope for usually the season, and they let
yep.
things play out. So I like that about them.
Having said that, obviously they're coming off back-to-back wins since Shaheen became captain. So, like Arman alluded to, like worst franchise in the history of the PSL to begin with, and suddenly they've come back and been the first side to retain their title. So they're running on a high. But if you look at their team, they've lost a lot of their key foreign players from last year. Starting off with Rashid Khan, he's a massive blow.
Who else have they lost?
Sam Billings, I
Who
think,
else have they lost?
becomes an issue with the keeping slot.
वो खिलता भी था.
क्यों नहीं? Sam
खिलता था.
Billings is there, yeah.
Bro, the first year they won, didn't they have the other guy Phil Salt, and then उसको गालियां दे के निकाल
Last year, I
दिया
think
फिर end
Sam
में.
Billings था.
Yeah, did they have
Yeah,
Sam Billings
yeah.
last year? I think last year they did have Sam Billings. I think you're right. But yeah, Rashid Khan is like a massive loss, just because he kind of
Bro, he's probably
like
the best T20 player in
he's
the world in the
learning.
sense like that's the sort of skill set you want first on your
Yeah,
team
yeah,
sheet, and then
yeah,
he's like an insane leg spinner, can hit at the end, and just overall the value he adds
yeah.
is irreplaceable. So that's a massive blow for
That's a
them.
massive loss.
They can't really replace
Yeah,
him, so it's like how do you do it in terms of like other players? And I don't know if they've really done
yeah.
that. Yeah, their spin department looks very light. Like I know Sikandar Raza is a useful player to have, and he's I think a good
It's
signing.
not the
But
same.
like he adds value as an all
Same.
rounder. But is he like the premier spin bowler you want to rely on? No. And then,
No,
but I guess
absolutely not.
the
Yeah,
question goes back to their or the answer to any question you pose to Lahore is always their player development program. And so, Syed
ADP
Faridoon, we've heard a little bit about him. He went to the Big Bash
for
before.
a
He
while.
hasn't
For a
really
while, we've
come
heard
to the
about him.
fore, but they like
Yeah,
trusting those players. So I think they'll be comfortable with
yeah.
doing that if they play him as like a leg spinning option.
It's gonna be tough because you can't really replace Rashid. And he's the guy who like it's still an excellent bowling attack, right? But he's the guy who really like puts it into like that one of the best ever type of attacks, right? Which I don't think is premature to
Yeah,
say at this point anymore. Like I think they are up there with the all-time T20 attacks. And you have because you have the best fast bowling attack in the tournament, and then you have the best spinner in the world
yeah,
probably
exactly.
to back it up. So and electric fielder,
But it also makes a
um,
difference in the sense that like
like
okay, you
crazy
have to pick
batter.
who to attack, right? When you have Shaheen, Haris, Zaman, and Rashid, that means you have to go after one of the better bowlers, and that ends up like
Exactly.
you end up throwing your wickets
Costing
away.
you.
Yeah, exactly.
Costing you, yep. There's no let up. You have to now there's gonna be a little bit more let up. Obviously,
So
right? So it's gonna be interesting to see.
yeah, so exactly. We're look. Go
And
ahead.
also their batting has always at most their batting's probably been at the par. It's never been anything, but I do think their batting got better this year, Shay.
I think I'm a little concerned. I know on paper it looks decent, but they have a lot of top order players. Yeah, like they have Fakhr, Abdullah Shafiq,
Yeah,
Saibzada Farhan, Rassi van der Dusen, Shai Hope. These are all like top three players. And I think they've sort of had that little bit of a लगता है कि जिसने भी पाकिस्तान की टीम सेलेक्ट की है वही लाहौर कलंदर्स की टीम सेलेक्ट कर रहा है
वो तो है,
ओपनर्स
वो
भर
तो
दिए
है.
हैं टीम में
But I think at this point in time, you have to say Sikandar Raza is like a
really good finisher
close to
yeah
world class
yeah
player. right? Like in limited overs cricket and what he's done in the last couple of years against all opposition, low key, right? Wherever he's gone and played, he's performed. So I think that is like a little bit of an underrated trump card they have. Let's go through their team now, man.
So I think obviously openers pick themselves. Fakhr and Abdullah, solid, excellent. I don't think anyone has any concerns or issues there. They always do this game where they drop Fakrs from their retentions and then usko gata hai platinum category mein jaake wo
I
pick
still don't
karte hain.
understand it. I
And
still
then
don't
they have
get it.
Rassi van der Dusen, who they've
But
picked in
yeah,
platinum, so you would assume he would play at like 3, I guess.
that's where I have
And
him. Yeah.
then 4, I'm going for Sahibzada Farhan, even though he's an opening batsman. But again, like I've already alluded to, they have picked a lot of opening players, so someone will have to play out of position. Or per number 5 पे मैंने Shai Hope को रखा है, but again I think that's too low for him. But I don't really know what else to do with their team. What about you?
I took Dan Lawrence
Okay,
there.
so yeah, I think that makes more sense if they want. I just thought that
He's
he's
an
more of an
all-rounder as well.
established international player, so I would have, went with Shai
Yeah.
Hope there, but I think it makes sense to have Dan Lawrence there. I think that's a good call.
I think Dan Lawrence might make a little bit more sense, and then he's an all-rounder as well. He's an off-break bowler.
Yeah, so yeah.
And I think he bowled he's bowling quite a bit, I think, in the ILT20 as well. So he's actually opened the bowling a couple of times. So decent
Okay,
option
that's
there.
a good option. I think they
Then,
needed like someone to
right?
share with Sikandar, so I think that makes more sense to have him in the team then.
That makes more sense.
और फिर Visa होगा
And
7 पे.
Sikandar
Sikandar के
Sikandar
बाद,
at 6,
हाँ,
right?
Sikandar तो obviously is
Sikandar,
there.
Visa.
And then
I was thinking, are they getting close to like Darren Sammy, Peshawar Zalmi zone? But I think Visa's probably
it's a
gonna play
question I
this
do
season.
have, like how long can he continue to deliver for? Because I think they rely on him for like almost 4 overs every game.
Yeah.
So वो देखना होगा, but he hasn't shown any
Yeah.
sign of slowing down.
Bro, he's bowled some clutch fucking overs.
He's
for
been,
them
bro, like
too.
if there's
it's,
if you ever have like a Hall of Fame for Lahore Qalandars, David Visa is the first name.
yeah. 8, I've gone Faridoon because they're missing Rashid
But
Khan.
वो
And they
मतलब he
have
can't
Visa as the
bat, so
4th.
Shaheen will be 8, and then you have
Sorry. Shaheen's going to be
Yeah.
above him at 8, which I think Shaheen has schemed it this way. for him
I mean,
to
I would
come
think
in
that
as
he
a
would want to
fifth.
come even higher if he's given the opportunity. Visa को फिर से बिठा देगा. I think जब मौका मिलेगा तो.
That's what, okay, just side point. That's what we're talking about with Lahore. Final number 1 versus, who did they play?
It was
They played
Multan
Multan
both times.
years.
Yeah.
David Wisa comes in and hits like 28 off like an over or something like that, 8 or something, and they get to a par score. The next year they're losing again. David Wisa's coming out like the Undertaker, and Shaheen Afridi says,
Beta
"Sit your
bad,
ass
yeah.
down. I'm coming out here." He scores 40 off like 15 balls. Like Lahore wins from random moments. It's the most Pakistan team there is in the entire PSL.
That's fair to say. Yeah.
So we're gonna have Afridi coming in at 8.
Rauf, Zaman,
and then
and
I guess
Faridoon then.
Rauf Zaman. You go with Faridoon too to
Yeah,
start.
they need a spinner.
They do need a spinner, but this Jahadat guy, apparently he's an all-rounder.
Okay, interesting.
So,
I mean, again, the thing with
they
emerging
probably
is that,
do
especially with Lahore, I think with the other teams, emerging players, you can still have something to expect from them just because you've seen them in National T20 or either they're under 19. But with Lahore, they come straight out of the PDP, like with Haris, with Ahmed Danyal, with
They come out of the nets,
Syed
bro, like,
Faridoon.
no one
So
knows who these guys
Jahan
are.
Dan could be like
Yeah.
someone special, but I think that's to be discovered.
Let's see. But yeah, I think this is going to be a test for Lahore because like they have been absolutely blessed in the last 2 years that Zaman Khan was their emerging player, right? So that's
Yeah.
like a lot of times you're weak. Not often it's been a strong point, but what could be a weak link has he's won them a fucking tournament, right? Like but at the end, if your emerging player is doing that, that's a guy that you have to have in your team. So let's see how they adjust to that. To him having to be selected. But yeah, you're right. The batting does look stronger on paper, but I think they're gonna maybe have to step up a little bit.
Yeah, because like in the past,
given
like
that
I mean, to
Rashid's
be
gone
fair,
this
like
year.
they have always delivered. Like you look at the final, even though soccer like ka score hua tha and stuff. It's not like they haven't, and they still have like Fakhr and Abdullah. It's just that I don't know with that losing a little bit of the X factor with the ball, it means that you'll probably have to score a little bit more as well. I think for me, like
Okay,
they're looking
yeah,
a little bit
that's fair
weaker
enough.
than before, but they have the individual quality to still make it. So when I say weaker, like I still see them like making the playoffs, and they're like you said, they're like a Pakistan sort of team. So when you
Yeah.
make it there, like and they click at the right time, they can go all the way.
Then they're
So I think for
very-
them, the question
yeah.
marks are just like their emerging players, like how they'll fit into this team.
to the death bowling,
What
right?
happens if like Faridun doesn't fire? Like what if he's like really bad and then they don't have a spinner in their entire squad to go
Yeah.
back to?
See, it could happen, but whenever you've seen Lahore have to play a guy, the guy inevitably
Yeah,
does
that's
pretty
true.
well, right? Like whether it's been like Dilbar or Haris or Zaman, like they somehow know when to throw these guys
Yeah,
out. But it's a spinner this time, so it is going to be a little bit different. I guess if that is the case, and Pakistan is not an easy place to bowl as a spinner, they might just go with this Jandad lad and bowl off spin with the two
yeah,
guys they
solid.
have. I think they have a couple of guys on the bench. Like Raja Paksa is a decent guy who could come in. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what how like what they do this year. But like another strength of theirs, I'd say, is that they have like probably the best we talk about teams with identities, like they have their identity sorted out with or without Rashid Khan. I don't think their identity changes at
Yeah,
all, and the way they play. So I think that is something they do have going for them. They know who they are, and then I don't know if they'll win this year, but I don't expect them to miss the playoffs by any stretch. I think they'll be in the mix towards the end.
chalo. So I think we've already alluded to the fact that Karachi Kings extremely strange franchise. I think it's pretty ironic that they won their only title during COVID, given the nature and the turbulent nature of this franchise in the early years of the PSL. I think शुरू में they जब पांच टीमें थी, every team bar one made it to the playoffs, and Lahore were really shit. So Karachi essentially just made it to the playoffs by default every year. I think that sort of set the trajectory for this franchise. And then they had the. I mean, I guess you could say it worked out for them that they had Babar Azam. I don't know if you've heard of him. Pretty good player. And so they ended up winning a championship on the back of his opening performances. But that's sort of like how they've been as a franchise, like held together by star power, Babar Azam, Imad Wasim, Mohammad Amir, Alex Hales, these sort of guys, and then around them they've essentially had like a lot of like turnover.
Shurjil. Give Shurjil a shout
Shajid
out. Give
Khan,
Shurjil. Give your boy Shurjil a shout out.
Shajid Khan as well. Yes. But yeah, I think last year, arguably like probably their worst season. They didn't get into the playoffs for the last couple of years, and last season was just pathetic. They only won 3 games, and again, in a bit of a theme for Karachi, they only avoided the bottom because Quetta somehow were even worse. um, so, like from the outside, like it felt like a pretty toxic franchise, right? Like epitomized by Imad Wasim, Mohammad Amir, Shoaib Malik, pretty strange foreign picks. They never know what their best 11 is. Wasim Bhai is on the bench, like arguing with people. I don't think he really knows what
Yeah,
is
yeah. The
going
only
on.
saving grace was Dino.
Yes, so
Rest in
exactly. The
peace.
one year they won was when Dino took over, and he really led him. And he unfortunately passed away during the time that they were the season was curtailed due to COVID, and then they came back and won it for him. But yeah, generally just coming back to them, so they've gone through a major overhaul in the off season here. We spoke about bringing Shan Masood over from Multan Sultans, but I think before we even get to Shan, I think the key or Karachi sort of signaled their intent by bringing over Haider Azhar, who was the GM of the Multan Sultans and was with Multan from day one. He's again one who's epitomized like one of those data-driven approaches similar to Islamabad, and sort of brought that mentality to Multan. And so the fact that they've got someone of that quality over, someone who's really renowned for building a team and putting like a good environment in place, I think that was really important for Karachi to address, and they seem to have done that. And then Haider Azhar went ahead and brought like Shan Masood, who was one of his lieutenants from Multan, also captain for a season before Rizwan came over. And I think
Turn
if you're
things around for them.
restructuring a team to take on like a more positive brand of cricket or like a more data oriented approach, Shan Masood is probably the guy to bring over as captain.
Number one
So
guy.
I think that's a really good
Yeah.
decision. And then they've got Phil Simmons, who again one of the best coaches in the world, pretty calm demeanor. He's won everything there is to win with the West Indies national team in T20 as well. So I think with backroom stuff, they've done a lot of good work. What's interesting is like how their 11 is going to fare, right? Because although this rebrand is going on, they've built a new core, but like they've also lost a lot of their really important players. So like a couple of years ago they lost Babar. Last year they lost, or this year they've lost Imad Wasim, who you can say whatever you want about him, but he was their best player, like without a shadow of a doubt. So the fact that they let him go,
For a year. For a
no,
year.
like last season, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. But he wasn't doing that every year.
no, for sure. But like last season, I think he was head and shoulders clear of
He
everyone
was
else.
crazy. Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
letting him go while only getting Hassan Ali in return was a bit of a head scratcher for me, given just the all round value that Imad Wasim brings. But I think it just was just them saying that, hey, like, we need to cut ties here
Let's
and
just
let's
move
just
on.
like move on.
Let's
So
just
that's
move on.
pretty
Let's just
refreshing that they're starting to think long
respond.
term, even though they got the
It's refreshing, but I don't know, like it took me a while to get on board with this because I was happy like with all of the scumbags just being on one team, so I could like
your
concentrate
hate.
all of like my dislike to one and just appreciate everybody else. But now one of the scumbags is gonna be on another team, one of the scumbags is gonna be on another
Well, they
team.
still have
So
Shoaib
like,
Bhai, but अच्छा उनकी team
but
देखो तो I
yeah,
think yes, we've said a lot of positive words about like their sort of rebrand. Like on the pitch, they're gonna be in for like a really tough season, because I think the goal here for Karachi is really to rebuild their core, because I think at the end of the day, a PSL franchise is only as good as your local core, and Karachi unfortunately has never backed players from season to season to be able to develop that, which is why I said that they're really reliant on star power. So the fact that I think for them they have a lot of young players in this squad, it's really going to be about identifying who is going to stay with them in the years to come and really backing those guys. So like the likes of Arafat Minhas, who's left arm spinner, all rounder, been with the Pakistan under 19 team, someone like him. They have talent, but I don't know if they have enough to really do anything in this PSL. So I think
yeah. So with them, just to cut you off, bro. I'm sorry. I think they have a lot of like good T20
yeah,
specialists, but if you look at their team, you're not quite sure which
yeah.
direction or which identity
They're still
they've
sort
been
of
molded in,
stuck
right?
between
Like,
like what they were and what they want to be, and I think that change
yeah,
doesn't happen overnight, right? Like it takes a while. With the PSL, you
no,
have to retain a certain number of players. You can't just get rid of everyone, and so they have sort of
yeah, but still though, there's not like that one suit where you could look at and say that okay, this is
yeah.
their strength. Like I'm not quite sure what they have good players, but I'm not quite sure how this team fits. And another thing that kind of pisses me off a little bit that we'll get into while we're making the teams is, man, Arafat Minas is not a emerging
Yeah,
player.
because he played that. So the rule is that you can't be an emerging player if you represent Pakistan, and the emerging games counted as kya tha? Asian games. Remember they sent a team there.
Asian
He played
game
for them, and so he's not emerging. And I think that
was
really fucks him up. Like unfortunately,
that
because
really messes him up,
he would
bro.
have been like one of the guaranteed starter there. I think it's really bad news
Yeah,
for him.
yeah,
Because especially when you're
absolutely.
on the same team
And
as
he
Mohammad
should be
Nawaz, he's
starting.
competing with Nawaz now, and I think Nawaz starts over him.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like he would have been a bona fide starter, right? Had that not been the case. And now like he's gonna and he should be, bro. Like he's these are the type of guys you want to see do well. Like he was a revelation for Pakistan in the under 19 World Cup right now too. Like you want to see these types of characters play. So it's just a little bit disheartening that he's not gonna be a surefire starter.
And
Um
yeah, so agar,
should we get into
yeah,
the
just going through their
yeah.
team. So I think initially I looked at Kieran Pollard underwhelming as like a platinum first pick. I mean, I guess he was in Multan with Hyderabad also, so they're sort of leaning on his experience. Which, given the sort of changing
Yeah.
nature of the Karachi franchise, I think it's fair to have like a dressing room presence like that. But I'm concerned about what he can deliver on the pitch, so that remains to be seen.
He played okay for
Yeah, he
Multan
did. He
last year
did
though,
for sure,
Hux.
for sure. I think just another year on. Let's see whether he can do that. But I think
Fair,
it's a
fair.
fair decision to get him, given like his experience and all.
Experience.
And I actually really like the fact that they got Mohammad Nawaz, though. I think he needed a bit
Yeah,
of
good
a
pick. Good
refresh,
pick.
and I'm glad he's left Quetta.
Yeah.
And I think it's an important year for him because he needs to cement his place in the Pakistan team with Imad Wasim now retired for that T20 World Cup. And I want Nawaz to get confidence with the ball, with the bat, both. So I really want him to play throughout this PSL and get an opportunity to
Yeah.
express himself.
Real good chance for him to emerge as a
Yeah,
leader on this team. And if he can have like one of those really good early tournaments that he did for Quetta, you never
yeah.
know, right? Like it's T20 cricket. Like I can't sit here and for sure rule any team out just because the nature of the game is as such. But Karachi does it has one of the more awkward looking
Yeah,
11s, which
let's
I
get
guess we can
into
get
it.
into now.
I think opening picks itself, James Vincent and Shan Masood, which is a solid, if unspectacular combo, I would say. Like maybe the ceiling isn't as high as some of the other teams, but I think with the two of them, you'll definitely get consistency. And then number three, I think they're going to go with like one of their foreign guys. So either Tim Seifert or Deploy, who
Who did you go with?
I think I went with Deploy just because I saw some highlights of him in the South Africa T20 and he's pretty talented. Like basically he was opening up with Faf du Plessis for the Chennai Super Kings franchise. I think it's Joburg Super Kings, and first ball he hit like a scoop for six, first ball of the innings, which was pretty
Wow.
impressive. So I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, let's give this guy a
Impress
go.
you.
They have Tim Seifert as well, who they picked in Diamond, who I assume would probably be the first choice. Like in, I don't know, Jo Maine New Zealand Pakistan series mein usse dekha, wasn't really impressed.
I went with Tim Seifert, but I'm down
Yeah.
to
He's a
I'm
keeper
down
though,
to go with your
Seifert, which I
guy.
guess like probably gives him the edge there.
Would you have a clock
I
playing? That's the
had a
question.
clock playing for now, yeah.
Okay, so who's your number
Shoaib
four?
Bhai. As solid
Yeah,
as you
same.
can get. Shoaib Bhai 4, Pollard 5, and then I had a clock at 6. But again, if they have Seifert playing, then they have an extra slot there, which they could go with an all-rounder or something.
I have Seifert at 3, Shoaib at 4, Irfan is my emerging guy at number 5, and then I have Pollard at 6.
Okay, that's fair. I think yeah, like it's gonna be some combination of that, like whether Seifert plays, or that means that a clock probably doesn't get in the team, and if Seifert is not playing, then a clock probably does as a wicket keeper. And then I had Nawaz at number 7, and Daniel Sams at number
Yep,
8.
same. Same.
And then Hassan Ali at 9. I had Tabriz Shamsi at 10, and Sirajuddin, who's their emerging fast bowler, at 11.
Oh, okay. So you know Irfan for your
No,
team,
I went
yeah?
with Sirajuddin because I think that they don't have any express
Cool.
pace bowler, and he's a 140 plus sort of pacer, and I think that's
Yeah.
something that this team really needs because their bowling looks extremely weak to me. Like I know Shamsi, I think
Yeah.
if the ball is
Yes.
turning, he can have a bit of an impact. Like in uske alawa, yeah, it seems very mediocre. Like Hassan Ali, Daniel Sams, Mohammad Nawaz, like these
Yeah.
are players who, on their off day, like they could go for a lot of runs.
Yeah, I think Shamsi is their only
Yeah,
top class
yeah.
bowler as things stand right now. So wait, who are your 4? किसी को मेरा भी ये
Yeah,
5 आ रहे हैं
Pancha,
अभी. I have to
you're
take
right.
someone out.
I will find. I'll get rid of
Sam's
Sam's.
को
I guess.
let's put
Anwar
Anwar
Ali.
Ali in,
Yeah, I'm
bro.
done. Let's
Screw
go
it.
Anwar Ali.
Let's put
Let's go.
Anwar Ali
Let's
in,
go.
bro.
Anwar Ali.
Anwar Ali.
I love Anwar
Anwar
Ali,
Ali.
man. Let's put him in there.
I love Anwar Ali
I'm
too,
glad he's
bro.
back in Karachi. Like, gives you like the Karachi Dolphins
Yeah,
vibes.
I wanna
Yeah,
see
bro.
Anwar
Daniel
Ali play,
Sams,
bro.
like you
Screw
might
it.
be a platinum player, but like we prefer Anwar Ali.
This is
So
this is
yeah,
the PSL. Daniel Sams can go back to Australia, bro. This is Anwar Ali's
exactly.
league. I don't know if it does that much better for the team composition.
It probably doesn't change much, to be fair.
No, it probably what isn't really gonna change. But bro, Hux, this bowling looks
It looks
shit
trash,
right
bro.
now.
This is why I'm saying, like, I don't think they're winning anything with that bowling attack. Like, again, I'm happy to be
Wait, so
proven wrong, but
oh
yeah.
man.
That's the thing. Like, I feel like the team is
उनको बहुत पड़ेगी,
they don't
bro.
really have explosive players. Their foreign players are probably not too convincing, so they are highly dependent on locals. And if you look at Hassan Ali, Shan Masood, Shoaib Malik, these are their key players. But in terms of T20s, like they're mid-tier players, right? And Karachi Kings need them to be top tier to compete with the best, you know. Look, let's be honest here. For them, like realistically, they obviously their goal will still be to win, but I don't think they can really achieve that with this team. Like I'm happy to be proven wrong. I think the main thing is for them, results will be a bonus. Just like actually create an identity, back your squad. You know, give the young players a chance, which is what you haven't really done before. And then, you know, find out who your guys are, who you're going to be relying on. Like, is it going to be Arafat Minhas, Mohammad Nawaz, you know, these sort of guys in the years to come? So actually figure out who you're going to retain and the core you're going to build around. Because yes, like they are rebuilding, but a rebuilding phase in like a sports franchise doesn't last for more than like 2 or 3 years. So like if you say that you write off this season, next season and the one after that are going to have to be seasons where you really learn the lessons from this year and find out who your guys are, who you're gonna
Okay,
back.
answer me this. Answer me this. Um, Last time Shan Mazood took over a franchise was obviously with
Yeah.
Multan. I didn't have them making the playoffs that year, I don't think, but you did. You did have them making it that year in 2020
Yeah,
COVID year.
because dude, I think it was a
Are there
similar.
any parallels, or was that team even head
No,
and
no, you're
shoulders
right.
above
Like there
this?
were
You
a lot of
think?
parallels. Like I think Multan were still a bit of a strange situation where there's a lot of like turnover of players year on year. They hadn't really developed their like players to rely on, and I think that's what the ask is going to be from Sean Masood. He's a guy who I think like if you're needing 10 to 20% extra from players, he's a captain who can probably get that for you, given
Gets that
the
out of
like
you.
the nous he has there. I think we saw it in the test series as well. I just think that I don't know if they have the quality. That's my only concern.
That's what I'm asking. Did Multan have a lot more? Who did they had Moin Ali, they had Riley Rousseau, they had
I
Vince.
think they had like the foreign star
Those guys,
power
I
at
guess,
least, right,
yeah.
to be able to deliver.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, I think it's going to be a bit of a struggle for them. But honestly, like as long as they go out and play like a positive brand of cricket, I think that's what the Karachi fans want to see here.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. And yeah, see, the only thing I'm struggling with a little bit is you with a team like this that's in a clear rebuild mode, and after just witnessing filth for like the better part of the last decade, right? Even when the team was good, to be honest. Um, you're then looking for a young player or a couple like a young nucleus to come and just energize, your crowd there. I don't know if I see
Yeah,
that here either,
yeah,
bro. To
I
be
agree.
completely honest,
Like you could actually have used someone like Heather Ali, I think, in this side, um,
or Akash,
or like a
yes,
Qasim Akram,
for
again,
sure.
someone they let go. So yeah, it's not convincing or really not like good. Not probably what you want to hear as a Karachi fan, but I think a lot of their
Yeah,
team is a little bit
yeah.
up in the air. Again, look, they have some talented players. They have Sirajuddin, they have Saad Beg, they have Arafat Minhas. If these guys get an opportunity, they might be able to step up. But I think the real pressure will be on the senior players, or like Pollard, Shoaib Malik, Sean Masood, Hassan Ali, James Vince, Tabriz Shamsi. Like these guys
Yeah,
will have to really carry the burden here.
you're gonna have to. It's a similar type of like last year they were just full of like good veteran T20 pros, and it didn't work for whatever reason because they didn't seem to have that young spark. So I hope some of these guys can get in and just. I would love for Sirajuddin to come in and like be the
Yeah,
emerging player of the year. Like nothing
exactly.
would
So
make me
that
happier. It
is
would be
what they could
awesome, right?
like sort of bank on here.
Something like
But
that, or
it's pressure to put on a young guy. Yeah.
yeah. And then just one more thing, like they had Tayyip Tahir, and he had a
Yeah.
good PSL, and he's a guy they could have used. Like I don't know why they didn't retain him.
Yeah,
Like
he
just these
is.
types of things have always
I
just
I get what you're saying because I thought about this as well, but then I'm like, yeah, I don't know how high your ceiling is with like a Tayyip Tahir in T20s. Like I feel like he's another one of those players who classifies as like that mid tier. Like he can do well, but he's not really going to give you like a. I don't know, if he has really good innings, it'll probably be like a 130 strike rate or something. It's not going to be any higher than that. And if you're playing in the middle order, especially when you have like Sean and Vince opening up, you maybe need someone a little bit more explosive. But that's what I was thinking.
they need Umar Akmal in
Yeah,
the
I think they
team.
should draft him in.
They should have
Angur, तुम provide
they
करोगे?
should have bid it for him. मैं अनलिमिटेड अंगूर प्रोवाइड करूंगा अगर कराची ने उसको पिक कर
सही
लिया.
सही